Two real quick things before we jump into it. Probably streaming on Twitch if you want to come hang out. Links in the description below. Would love to see you stop by. And my G Fuel code is 30% off until the 26th if you're interested. Games nowadays have a knack for changing things, but then not mentioning said changes in the patch or update notes. Modern Warfare is no exception to that, and with update 1.13, we had quite a handful of unmarked or stealth changes to the update. Today, I want to dive into those changes that you may or may not have seen and been wondering, wait, did that actually change? Today, we're going to be examining 17 different changes that were made within Modern Warfare, but have never actually been officially mentioned for whatever reason. Perhaps there's a change that may have brought too much attention or some community uproar if it was officially mentioned. Perhaps it was an unintended adjustment or a bug, but all in all, changes no less. As we go along, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments on if I missed anything that we could add to this list, or if there's anything that you wish they would have clarified, maybe mentioned that happened, or anything in between. As well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare on a daily basis. We're on that road to 300,000 subscribers, and we'll keep you filled in on anything you need to know. But anyways, let's get into it. Let's start with perhaps one of my favorite changes, that being more teasers for Ghost. Now, Ghost was whether a brand new operator, which I'm expecting him to be, or a new uniform coming for Nikto in some time in the future. That's another common theory. Ghost has been hidden in plain view for a few weeks now, starting with publicly an update about a month or so ago, in which Infinity Ward put an image in the middle of the static television broadcasts across all the maps and games. If there was a television set in that map, a television set model, there was a Ghost image associated with it on the broadcast that came along in that television. As well, there was also a promotional video for Nikto showcasing some backstory, almost as if part of a recovered dossier, but in a frame of that video, tweeted by the official Call of Duty Twitter account, was that of Ghost's face looking back. But among those hints and also other data mined information that points towards him being another upcoming operator, in update 1.13 on Wednesday, we got even more. We got more television static on even more maps, and the biggest one of all, in the middle of Piccadilly Circus on the giant LED monitors, there's a flash of a prominent Ghost design. Is it the exact one that we saw beforehand, like an actual image, as if a picture of the operator? Not quite, but this one more so is like a spray paint or street art variation of Ghost, almost like a logo of some sorts, but it points to this now, teasing and promoting Ghost's probable return here at some point in the near future. We initially thought that this maybe would be something that he comes in Season 1, but with so much time having passed since our last tease, and now this sort of towards the tail end of the season, might be looking like this is now an introduction to tease the next operator within Season 2 perhaps. But regardless, that was a change that was made, and one that you may notice, and it's a big one. Now, next up, we're going to move over into all the other changes, but these are more so the stuff you'll notice in-game, some stuff that isn't necessarily promo, but actual gameplay changes. Let's start out on the map of Crash. This one actually had a significant change to it because in the newer alleyways slash cutout that was overlooking the mid-map helicopter crash, you had this wall with an AC unit underneath it that allowed you to severely head glitch that wall. Now, this was adjusted by the actual AC unit being made larger. It's visibly bigger, but the one thing you'll definitely notice is if you go up on top of it, you are way more exposed. It's not just something that naturally you head glitch it as is. You can still mount into it, which if I'm not mistaken, still does make you a little bit of a harder target to find and then return fire on. But if you're standing there, if you're crouched even, you are way more exposed, which I think this is a fantastic change. Not sure why this one wasn't put into the patch notes, but that was something you may have missed. Third thing up on this list, there's actually a smaller change to Tvorsk District. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the random barrier glitches that will shove you into an almost skydiving mechanic, that stuff doesn't seem to be fixed out just yet. But bright side on the map, there's now an ammo box actually in the D flag capture area. There is still one outside, but that was previously the only one around all of D. So that's something that they added that on there. You can now refill your ammo a little bit further, but we talked about that skydiving bug and issue, but what about some actual changes to the parachuting mechanic in-game? There's actually a bunch of functionality adjustments to how you parachute in-game, primarily just groundwork, because you can't obviously in 6v6 and 10v10, but in groundwork where there's helicopters or high locations, you end up having quite a few changes to this. Firstly, to start out from the very top, you can actually now pretty much skydive and headfirst dive into things, whereas previously you were still kind of just having your hands out, your model was there showcasing you falling, but it really wasn't as controllable. You can now speed up or slow down depending on how you end up angling yourself. Whenever you end up pulling your parachute, you have a lot more range of motion with this. You can actually now completely just glide straight down, but you also have more speed. You end up having more range of motion in your turns. The only thing that I think is a negative adjustment here with this update to how the mechanic works is that when you pull your parachute, there's a split second where you have absolutely no ability to move or anything. You just kind of stay stationary there before you then can swing into everything. But that's a big change and a good one, I think, at that, and maybe hints at that battle royale coming. We'll end up seeing how this all works out, but that was a big adjustment and one that I'm definitely happy for. Next up, one thing that you may have noticed also outside of your games after you finish each one is that you now have a battle pass progression breakdown, which will show you what things you did in game, not specifically, but the categories in which you progressed your battle pass at some point during that match that you had just completed. You'll see things like a kill bonus, you'll see things like a capture bonus, a defend bonus, a match bonus, and a challenge bonus that will be the stuff that you completed in game normally, but it will just showcase as, hey, this is what helped you progress your battle pass a little further in terms of battle pass XP. A nice visual representation that I think is a really nice addition, but again, wasn't mentioned at all. Mentioning capture bonuses, when you now try and capture a flag or an objective, if you aim down sight, you'll notice that the opacity of the message that says you're capturing or defending something or clearing something, that's actually now lowered. So it's not as intrusive on what you see in your field of view and your HUD, which is a fantastic change. Definitely something that is a smaller change in the grand scheme of things, but one that is absolutely needed, I think. Really a big fan of that one. Jumping over a little bit now to a discussion about a weapon in particular, the Scar was noted that it had a horizontal recoil buff, to which it lowered the recoil horizontally for that of the Scar, but it actually had a vertical recoil reduction as well, making it a weapon that is an absolute powerhouse now again. The recoil was always one of the big downfalls of the Scar, but now that it's now buffed up to where it is, it's a solid choice. Definitely give that a shot. Talking weapons a little bit further, one thing that was actually busted here with this one and wasn't mentioned was that stopping power rounds for some weapons and their one-hit potential now completely nullify that potential that it had. The Odin, the FAL, the EBR, the M4A1 with the 458 SOCOM rounds, they can no longer one-hit if you end up getting a headshot with the stopping power rounds equipped. That's a big change and one that is probably not for the better, I think. It defeats the purpose of the stopping power rounds in a lot of cases regarding those weapons. So not a fan of that one, but that was a change that was not mentioned as well. Another big change that is a bad one, and I really hope is just that of a bug, but wasn't mentioned, was the fact that playing the objective no longer progressed your field upgrades any faster. You ended up getting bonuses towards that, but now it just kind of lessens the incentive even further to play the objective, whereas you can't even get a simple gameplay feature like you could before. I think this one is a bug, at least I'm really hoping so. This just doesn't seem to make any logical sense as to why you'd remove it, but a change no less. One thing that I've heard discussion on, but myself having tested it in private matches, I haven't really seemed to been able to recreate the issue, but it's been there in public matches, is that of a delay when using Stim shot. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this comes down to a server side thing where instead of being on a local connection, if it's something you'll only encounter in public matches, but when you end up popping Stim, there is apparently a split-second delay before you can start to hip fire again, whereas previously you wouldn't have any delay whatsoever. So that's something you may have encountered, and you're not crazy. It is a change that happened, and it's likely a bug as a result, but is a change no less. Shoot the Ship is once again 5v5 here, so Shoot House and Shipment 24/7, that playlist that's available right now, that's 5v5, whereas previously both of them were 6v6, so that's a change that was made also. Quick Play has a brand new functionality for the toggle between core and hardcore. Instead of just simply toggling with your square button or your X button on Xbox or whatever you have it bound to on PC, you now have different tabs of columns for the core and hardcore game modes, and you can view them individually, but to select what you want to queue for, you have to view either hardcore or core and then choose it. So it's just an extra added step, which is kind of weird to me, but it lays out a little bit further that you can now select core and hardcore. Previously, it was kind of known, but there was a surprising amount of people that I had seen that actually didn't know how to toggle core and hardcore. So it lays it out more so rather than just making it an easy to access thing if you already know about it. So that's an adjustment there that was made also. The SUVs within Ground War were actually changed to a different color. This is a change that I don't personally understand as to why it was made. Previously, they were a brown color. Now they're a bluish color. So that's something that was changed as well. The final change that we are entirely sure of is that of the different social display icon. Up in the top right, you have the ability to see your friends. You can open up that menu, but also showcases how many players are in your party and so on. This seemingly, I think, is a bug rather than an intended change, because it's entirely the same whenever you're just at your main menu, but whenever you search for a lobby, it ends up having the almost selected user interface icon where it's a texturized blue and black icon. That's something that only showcases when you are searching for matches. So again, I think it's kind of a bug, but that was a change also. And then the other stuff is things that I've heard whispers of, but we don't have, again, explicit confirmation of, obviously, with any of these, but they're tougher things to really say that's a full-on change, but they definitely feel it. The first thing being that the AC-130 to me definitely looks like it's lower in the air. I don't know if it's just the fact that I don't really look up or try and shoot down streaks or anything, but when I was playing on Tvorsk District earlier in the day, it definitely stuck out to me that it seemed way lower than it previously was. That's something that I thought was a change there. Game chat, apparently I've seen discussion on this, seemingly had an adjustment that attempted to make it more HD quality sounding voice audio, but instead kind of made it more muffled and tin can sounding like. And then the final thing I want to talk about is one that is personal anecdote based and something of an observation on my own end and my friend's end. It seems like some of the network connection has been a little off as well. There's been quite a few times just in the past day and a half where I've died completely around walls, and that happened a lot beforehand, but it's happening way more than I remember now. So that's something that may have been an inadvertent change and an inadvertent adjustment that the networking may have had some slight adjustments to it. But anyways, that's your changes here with this. That's the changes that were made, but not necessarily ever reported in an official capacity. So that said, let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Are there any changes that I missed? Is there anything out of this that you guys really liked and wish it would have been reported? Anything you didn't like? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare, updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. We got you covered here on the channel. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.